Hello, this is Dr. Castleberry back with another round of student discussion questions. I really didn't go anywhere, but this is the start of a new video, so we're gonna pretend I did or something. We're coming back from break. We're looking at some questions here and just pouring through them, seeing what we can open up. We love hearing from you all. We want, your voice counts and matters, and this process of working through the ideas you're coming up with is beneficial to all of us, I think. So, let's see. Another question before we move students here. We're looking at some questions from Jared, who just kind of like packed them in this week, right? He's doing overtime. Realistically, people can multitask. Can people multitask enough to make thoughtful decisions while not focusing completely on a given issue? Probably not. Bottom line, we are not as efficient as at multitasking as we perceive ourselves to be. And this is not just sort of, Dr. Castleberry's hot take on the matter. This is what research study after research study is continuing to convey to us, is that each new generation, we feel like we're confident at multitasking. We do all these things, right? Whether it's with social media or all these projects we're involved in, but it doesn't necessarily mean we are excellent at multitasking. To accomplish a task still requires that you have sole focus on that while completing it. And so multitasking has a bit of a mythology to it in its own right. There's an amazing episode of Frontline, PBS Frontline, that aired about several years ago now. And they even showcase some of that research into students at elite private, universities in the U.S. and those students had the same kinds of uber confidence and were showing skewed results when it came to what they perceived to be their multitasking as strength versus what it looked like in reality. So, who plays the most important role in communication, in my opinion? Well, it takes two to tango, right? So we need multiple people to communicate with. Otherwise, we're sort of out in the forest talking to the trees, right? Here's an interesting question from Zach. It's sort of talk about Pandora's box. Why do we study theory? Short question, but food for thought, right? An important question to engage early in a class or early in a major. Theory gives us ways of understanding and communicating, right? Theories create these subsets of language, what we call key terms or theoretical terms. And so they give us these ways of understanding and communicating ideas so that we can then begin to process and create solutions to improve and change or alter our social conditions. So theory plays a great role. There is that kind of safety concern, if you will, right? The label on the back that says, you shouldn't just dance in theory, or it doesn't necessarily do you any good to only read about or write theory, that at some point you need to do something with that, to which we say, but of course, right? All right, moving on. Nathan has some phenomenal questions for us here. He's really trying to put baby in a corner with these. Okay, let's see. Roberts, Kathleen Glenister Roberts, right? The book we're covering, Communication Theory and Millennial Popular Culture. He's got a book about Roberts' text here, and Roberts suggests millennials show a preference for an, quote, informal style, end quote, of communication rather than the formal style of the boom generation or Gen X. What factors do you think contributed to the shift in communication styles? Well, shifts in communication styles occur all the time. I think one of the most pressing ones of our age is technology, specifically digital technology, evolution of shorthand, things like slang, the way we speak or communicate is constantly turning. Whether it's progressing or regressing, it's still evolving, right? I think a reason we are integrating concepts and ideas and examples of popular culture in this course and our major is because popular culture is a way to both understand it, and it's in some ways responsible for some of these changes, right? Think about the influence that like a Justin Bieber or a Selena Gomez or some of these young celebrities, like they have a lot of pull on like the tween demographic, maybe even older people, right? Red flag, but they tweet out some message like do this, and support X, and people will just go, clamor over themselves to kind of respond, right? There's a kind of response rate that they can get out of their, what we call followers, and that's such an interesting term to think about when we discuss explore social media. What does it mean to be a follower of this, or to follow someone? Once again, we're reusing language terms we already have, but in a new context, in a social media context. So it's something to think about. Back to the Berger chapter, media and society. All right, so pulling out of media and society, another question comes that Jonathan Kohler argues that individuals are not the creators of society. Page 21. Who or what are the creators of society, right? So a little bit of play on words here. I think the point is that mass groups, right, collectively create society. So that is to say, a lone individual, isn't out there manipulating everyone and creating that sort of thing. That's why we view cults so conspicuously, right? When a cult leader decides to create an entire kind of worldview for his or her followers. Oh, here we go again with that word. Then they're trying to map such a thing out, and it usually ends in calamity in one form or another. That's, I think the point of that is simply that, it takes a village, right? Just like we live in a global village, it takes a village to produce culture and mass society. All right. Question over the Media and Society book, chapter 2. Survey reveals 32% of American teenagers never read, but instead are captives to the kinds of media that require relatively little intellectual effort. Bummer. What effects might this have on American society in the future if this trend continues? The future. Immediate follow-up response. Have you seen the movie Idiocracy? I think that's all I need to suggest there, right? I've given you a little key, right? Allow you to go down the rabbit hole yourself after that point. Writer director Mike Judge, showrunner of Silicon Valley on HBO, creator, voice talent, writer for Beavis and Butthead. Of 90s infamy, King of the Hill, right? Great social commentary, media artifact there. So someone that really knows how to like put their pulse, put their hand, feel the pulse of society, whatever. He's an artist. He can interpret things. But Idiocracy, what a harbinger, right? A film came out about a little over a decade ago, and now sort of starts to feel like maybe a mockumentary of sorts. Okay, so let's move on here. Ashley has some amazing questions. Thank you, Ashley, for your DQs. Let's see. As technology changes, speaking of generations and technology, as technology changes, so do our forms of communication and how we communicate. Hey, ditto, like well said. How do you think Generation Z will communicate differently, right? Some things change and some things stay the same, but they inevitably it will be some different kind of communication. I have no idea what. I crystal ball left at home, unfortunately. Um, let's see. Do you Well, let's skip that one. Do you believe that older forms of media, such as newspapers and magazines, will eventually become non-existent? Well, some have, right? Some are. And in fact, I use that newspaper joke all the time in class where I mispronounce it on purpose because it just is such a foreign concept to majority students I see, and they still get it, and they get it because it's like one of those things. It's just like older popular culture artifacts where they get what I mean, and maybe they haven't ever read a newspaper. Is the sad truth. Is like the stack of books collapses here. So on that topic of will they eventually become non-existent? This is a great opportunity to plug a future reading we'll have in one of our other communication, media, and literacy courses. It will actually spread across several classes, no pun intended, and it comes to us from Henry Jenkins Sanford and Joshua Green, Spreadable Media. And so that is a book that has a motto we will work hard to explore from many directions. And their motto is, if it doesn't spread, it's dead. And so I think that speaks to the future of media and what we used to refer to as print, the print medium in all its forms. Books must have an ebook version now. Newspapers, magazines, they need the website to also be generating a lot of clicks and users and interests and buys and ad space and all that sort of stuff. So yes, they must evolve or they will end. What ideas from TV have you been influenced by? So many, right? That's another. It's not so much a rabbit hole as a wormhole. I don't know if we would ever come out the other side the same way. But food for thought, right? Let's put a pin on that for another date. Okay, so thank you. Excellent questions from Ashley. I'm going to try to fit in some from Destiny before our part 2 video ends here. Destiny asks, let's see. In our book, Media and Society, it states, if I were to ask you what effect has media had on your life, you might offer the following answer. I am aware of media, but I'm not really affected by it. End quote. Do you think media affects you in your life? If so, how much are you affected by it? And do you think people are truly aware of the effect media has on them? Coming from around page 13 of Berger's text there. I would defer response to suggest we are less aware than we think we are, or than we perceive we are. In other words, there is a concept of exceptionalism, theories about exceptionalism, that we always feel like we're the exception to the rule, right? It's like, well, clearly this is influencing children in this way. It's a good thing I'm an adult, right? That I'm like 20 years old and it's not going to impact me in that same way because I certainly know better, right? Or even, whatever age, and I think a lot of times that depends on, stages of life or whatever. And so, but media clearly influences us. It can have an effect on us, and it is particularly significant at young ages, right? I mean, the way in which not only the content itself, but even like the lighting, the digital stimulation can influence the cognition of children of a certain age. And so, yeah, I think it carries into adulthood. We can't completely put that rubber stamp on it, and that's why it's always going to be in conversation, is there's not that hard science evidence, at least not right now, that says, well, this exact thing impacts you that way. So it leaves us at a crossroads, a reason to study media, and we'll be right back with more.